Hey folks, and welcome to They Might Be Racing. Today, we're back underneath the 2002 F-150, and we will be replacing the fuel pump. Now, in Fords, just about all Fords, the fuel pump is actually located inside the fuel tank. So, to be able to replace it, what you have to do is get the fuel tank out of the vehicle. Now, on this truck, it actually has a shield to protect it. So the first thing we have to do is take the shield off. It's 10mm bolts. And the easiest way to get at it is to tackle the body, the interior side first, and get all these guys loose. And I'm cheating a little bit today. And using an impact wrench. So, now be careful, you'll see two sets of bolts. One set of bolts is for the heat shield, the other one is for the tank straps. You do not want to accidentally undo the tank straps before you remove the heat shield. Get yourself into trouble that way. And once you've got the two on the interior, it's time to get the guys on the exterior, facing side. And the shield will start to drop as you remove the bolts. So what I normally do is put a knee underneath it, just to support it. Alright, so as I was saying before my camera rudely turned off on me, now in the particular case of this vehicle, we've got a very high lift on it with very large tires, so I've got plenty of workspace underneath here without doing any jacking at all. If you're doing this on a regular F-150, you're going to want to make sure it's up on jack stands, securely lifted and put in place. This is one of those jobs that if you can get a lift, makes things a lot easier. Now, we dropped the heat shield and set it out of the way, and so we're ready to bring the fuel tank down. Now, it's still connected to the car in terms of the lines and all of that, so we can't just drop it out. We have to take it out in a progressive fashion. So, I've got a floor jack with a bit of padding on it, just snug up against the tank. I've got a pair of jack stands here, and what we're going to do is we're going to remove the two bolts that hold the tank straps up. We're going to lower the tank down onto there. And if you can see here in the background, I've got my lovely assistant here to help me with the jack part of it. This is one of those jobs that having two people to do this part makes life a heck of a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead, and these are also exceptionally long bolts, so it'll take a second for them to come out. Wow. He does not want to come loose. This is part of the fun of having things on a car for a long period of time. They get goobered up and don't want to come off. These are, by the way, 13mm bolts, and as I said, they're fairly long. So the other end of the strap simply hooks into the frame here. So what you want to do is bring it down, and it should just twist to come out. There we go. You don't want to force it because you can damage the mounting point. Now we're going to get the other one. And down comes the other one. Oy. Okay. Now it's up there because the jack's holding it in place. So I'm going to have my lovely assistant slack off the jack a little bit. Start to lower it down. Hup! Okay. Hup! Now, this end isn't going to want to drop because the fuel fill is up there. So you're going to have to get up there. There is a, it's a band, so you need a 1/4 inch, I believe. Get up there and loosen that. And this is one of those points in time where if you have a well-trained child with small hands, it's exceptionally useful. However, ours is not well-trained. Alright, so now the tank's down on stands. I had to fight a little bit with the fuel fill line to get it down. It's just one of those things that somebody, when they installed it, didn't line it up very well, which made things twice as difficult as it needed to be to get it down. Now, we have down about here, and 2 lines that go to the fuel pump, as well as an electrical line. Up here, we have a couple of pressure lines. So now that we got it down on the jack stands, I'm going to reach up and over and disconnect all of that, but I'll show it to you in detail when we drop it out of the truck, because it's too hard to see right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, one of my favorite parts about a truck is you got your own workbench built in. And it's just real handy. Some days it seems that no matter what you do, no matter how much experience you have a job that just is not very much fun. And we had a difficult time getting this fuel tank out. Number one, these 2 guys here are part of the evaporative system, and they have very soft, squishy rubber hoses that slide onto them and are held down by the screw-down clamps. They were a pain in the butt to get off. I finally had to cut this one a little bit to get it off. The other thing that happened is, this is the fuel tank pressure sensor. Now, I really hate plastic sensors. I really wish that we didn't have them made. And the reason is that as they age, plastic becomes brittle, and anything that you have to apply force to, like the clips and such, you run into more and more trouble. And as I was trying to get this guy disconnected, what we actually had happen, oh, where did it go? The part literally, I probably, my workbench, literally disintegrated. It busted in half just as I was trying to get the hook loose. So the frustrating thing about that is these are, with tax about $70. So that was a replacement I didn't anticipate nor want to do. So what I've done now is we've got the tank up on the back of the truck, and the first thing you want to do is you want to brush it all off. I use a plastic brush. You do not want to create sparks. Plastic brush. I brushed off most of the dirt just to clean up the surfaces. Now what you want to do is you want to make an alignment mark in case you're going to take this out and rebuild it. So you pick a bolt, put a mark next to it, and then you put a mark on the gas tank. That way, when you reassemble that and it's lined up, you will have assembled it in the correct orientation to hook it back up. These guys come off pretty easily. There's a special tool from Ford that's used to detach the fuel lines. I got one in my hand right here. There are plastic ones and there are aluminum ones. Don't buy the plastic ones, buy the aluminum ones. Basically, it fits over the line and slides in underneath the cap, and you pull that loose. So to completely get this off the vehicle, you have to unhook this, which is the power. You have to unhook the fuel lines, the two evaporative lines, the electrical for the fuel pressure sensor, detach the hose that runs from the fuel fill down to the tank, and there's one more hose right here. It's a thinner gauge that you need to remove. So now we got this up here, and it's time to take the unit out. 8 millimeters is the head size for these guys, and I went ahead and I loosened them ahead of time because there's a bunch of them here. Once you got those guys loose, you should be able to you may have to twist a little bit, but twist and lift. Worst case scenario, very carefully, just get a screwdriver under there to loosen it a little bit. And then you should be able to just lift out the assembly. You'll have to kind of pitch it at an angle to get the strainer free as well as the float. Now, these are actually rebuildable units. You don't have to replace this whole thing. I was feeling lazy, so I was not in the mood to rebuild it, so I have a brand new one that we're going to install. But basically speaking, here is the fuel pump. This upper half is the fuel sender, which tells you how much fuel you've got in the tank. If you're just going to replace the pump, rebuild this unit and drop it back in, you have to have the pump. You also have to make sure you have the proper strainer. You do not want to put this back in the tank without the strainer. You'll burn out the pump in no time. And then this seal tends to stick down here, so you just want to pull it up and away. And you might want to give it a little air there just to clean off the dirt around it. So this guy just pulls up. It's actually part of that unit. And then what you do is you simply take your new one, again, feed those guys in, and drop it down. Now, I don't have an orientation mark here, but what I can do is I can reference the one I removed and say that, you know what, this guy here is that guy there, so I now got the correct orientation, and it's simply a matter of putting the screws in and tightening it up. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten this guy up, and we'll get it back underneath the truck and orient it and show you how to put it back in place, because putting it back is just as tricky as getting it out. Now, one other thing to note is that when these are first put on, they're put on at the factory, there's nobody underneath the truck installing this thing. So when you go to get the clamps off of these things in the various different locations, they're going to be in weird positions because they were the position that was best oriented for somebody tightening it from the top, not somebody trying to snake their arms around and undo it. So these will be a pain in the butt to get off, but once you've got them off, got them loose, when you go to do the reinstallation, you want to make sure to reinstall them in a way that makes it easy for you to get to it. Okay, so we've got the tank back underneath. We've got it up on jack stands with the jack supporting it. It's time to reconnect all the connections. So we're going to start at the back here with the evap hose, and that's not close enough, so we can't reach that one yet. Where is that? No, hang on. One of the fun parts about this is doing this sort of by feel. scooch that on there. And then that snap clip. Take a pair of pliers. I'm probably going to block the shot for a moment. Grab that tight and slide it on. So, next thing we're going to hook up is this hose right here. And this is where getting your clamp alignments, okay, that's not going to reach yet. But this is the point where getting clamp alignments and such correct is important in the event that you ever have to take this thing off again. There's the fuel pressure sensor. And that's not far enough down. So we're going to move forward a little bit here. We're going to find this evap hose. Which is right there. And we're going to have to raise a little bit more for him. There is the plug. Go ahead and install that. That powers the unit. And let's see if we can get the fuel lines on. Yeah, that'll drop. Okay. The gray coated hose goes in the back. And the little caps are, I believe, color coded. Make sure to turn your clip around. Nope. That's the easy way to tell whether or not you got it on correctly or not. You pull at it, and if it comes off, it isn't on. Okay. Dang it. This is a funny angle. It's not an easy one to get. Let me see if I got the blue one on. That one went on. Let's try the gray one again. There we go. Nope. Hopefully it's not damaged or anything. No, it looks just fine. It just, for whatever reason, not wanting to stay. Alright. One more time. There we go. Get your safety hooks in. Then lock those down. This is just basically a screwy angle to work at. Oh, Christ. Alright, I'm going to continue playing with this. This doesn't seem to want to stay in place. Well, folks, I have to admit that we got a little distracted getting the last of the stuff hooked up. So we got the fuel lines on, got the 2 evap lines on, got all the electrical connections hooked up. Then we raised the tank even further, slipped the tank supports underneath, bolted those into place. Then once we were done, we opted to test it. Now, I had actually run down the battery trying to get it to start earlier, and just never mind. So we had to put the jumper on it, let the pump run for a minute or two because it is a pressurized system and it needs to build up pressure before you try to start it. We tried to start it up immediately. Now I have one job left, which is the fuel tank shield. That's fairly straightforward, so I'm going to let the truck run for a few minutes and get some battery back, and then I'll put that on, and basically the job is done. It's this is one of those jobs that can be a hard one. It'd be an easy one. You never know going in, but believe me, by the time you're halfway done, your arms are pretty dang tired. So, until next time, happy motoring.